Welcome back to the channel. In this video I'll be performing an unboxing and review of a BlackVue DR900S 2-channel camera bundle. The DR900S 2-channel camera bundle includes a 4K ultra high definition front camera and a 1080p full high definition rear camera. Pittasoft did supply this product free of charge to RetroCarGuy 530 LLC, but the opinions expressed in this video are my own. In this video, I will go into depth in various segments of the review, so that will mean that you might want to focus in on particular sections of this video. So look at the list here for the various sections that appear in this video, look at the timestamp that appears there, and then you can skip to that section, or look down in the description section of this video and click on the link that corresponds to that section. First thing out of the box are the two cameras. The front camera is there on the lower portion of that box, and then the upper right corner has the rear camera. There's some protective film around each of the cameras which needs to be removed before installation, and then there's a cap over the lenses for each of those two cameras, including the window mounts for both of the cameras. The label on the upper left-hand portion of the box includes the serial number for the bundle, the Wi-Fi SSID, the password for the Wi-Fi network, and the cloud code to be used with the BlackVue over the cloud service if you decide to use that. Then we have the quick start guide, which is directly under the box with the cameras, and right above the accessory box, which contains all the other items to help you get the camera bundle installed into your vehicle. First out of the accessory box is the power port adapter that's used to supply switched power to the dash camera bundle. It plugs into the front camera, and power is then supplied to the rear camera through the video cable. Speaking of the video cable, here it is. It's a long cable that runs from the front camera to the rear camera. The end of the cable with the 90-degree connector plugs into the front camera. Next up, we have the micro SD card and an SD card reader. And in this bundle, the micro SD card capacity is 64 gigabytes. Next, we have the 8 wire clips with adhesive bases, which are used to route the wires as cleanly as possible around the windshield and the rear window. Next, we have the spare adhesive pads, which are useful if you need to replace your windshield or rear window, or you simply want to move where the mount is located on the window. And the last thing out of the accessory box is the plastic pry tool. That tool is used to gently lift up any plastic trim panels in your vehicle so you can install the power and video cables from this camera bundle. Let's start off with some of the specifications for the front and rear cameras. The front camera has an 8 megapixel CMOS sensor, which allows it to get true 4K ultra high definition video at 30 frames per second. It also has a 162-degree diagonal viewing angle. The rear camera has a 2.1 megapixel Sony Starvis CMOS sensor, which is capable of 1080p at 30 frames per second, and a 139 diagonal viewing angle. Now the front camera has two different bit rates that it can record at. There's an extreme setting which has higher bit rate, which we'll talk about in the settings for the camera. Camera bundle is compatible with BlackVue over the cloud, so you can use that to interact with the camera, get notifications, but we'll talk about that service a little bit later in the video. The dual band support for Wi-Fi is present for this 2.4 gigahertz and 5 gigahertz Wi-Fi support, so you can more quickly transfer video files off the camera. And then, of course, the video encoding codec that's being used, the H.265 video codec, which is a high-efficiency video coding codec, is being used because of the 4K video. It is much larger, a lot of extra pixels to store there, so H.265 is helpful in compressing that better and taking up less space on your micro SD card. Check to make sure the video files are, if you're transferring them to another device, make sure that that device supports that. Most devices should at this point, but check it out. And if you have any compatibility problems, set the camera to H.264, and that should be compatible, but of course will consume a lot more space for the 4K video. Here's a list of the features on the side of the box, and one thing to note is as of November 2019, when I obtained this camera from Pittasoft, the micro SD card support now includes 256 gigabyte support. We can now take a look at the front camera, front view. We have, of course, the lens and then the status light below it. We have the windshield mount with the lock button. You depress that to rotate or remove the camera from the mount. On the rear side, we have the speaker, the recording LED showing the 3 different modes for that. And the 3 modes include normal recording for normal operations of the camera, event recording, which can be derived from impact detection and motion detection events, and then parking mode recording, which can be set to motion detection and impact detection as one setting, or time lapse. Now the side views here, we can see on the left side there, the proximity sensor. You can touch that and turn on and off audio recordings, which is the default setting, which can be changed in the camera setup. It can also trigger a manual recording event, and now with the latest firmware releases, it will also be possible to turn it off so it performs no action. Then if we take a look at the next picture to the right, we can see the other end of the dash camera, and the large push button on the lower left corner of that side of the camera results in operations related to the Wi-Fi network. A single press will toggle it on and off. A long press with a single click afterwards will result in the reset of the Wi-Fi password and SSID, and then a double long press of that will result in the formatting of the microSD card. At the top end of that side of the camera, we have the power connector port, and then at the top right, we have where the video cable connects for the 2-channel configuration. And if you're wondering where the microSD card goes, it's under the cover there on the right end by the Wi-Fi format button. There's a little tab just to the left of that button where you pull up the cover, and the microSD card slot is under that protective cover. Here's the front camera removed from the mount, where you can see the ridged section there, which is allowing you to adjust the point of view for the front camera, and also the lens cover that's provided. On the left end of this picture, we can see where the Wi-Fi status LED is located, and the GPS LED indicates when a GPS signal has been acquired, and the GPS signal is used to obtain speed, location, and time information. Now let's take a look at the rear camera. Of course, we have the mounting bracket, which secures the camera to the rear window. Next, the lens for this 2.1 megapixel Sony Starvis CMOS sensor, which gives you a 1080p Full HD image. Next, we have the security LED, which normally is on by default, but you can configure that to be turned off if you wish to operate it in more stealth mode. And then, of course, we have on the other end of the camera, not in this picture, but the other end of the camera is where the video cable connects in, which supplies power, and the video signal is transmitted to the front camera. Here are the conditions for my comparison between the BlackVue cameras and the ThinkWare cameras that are pre-existing in my vehicle. 2017 Chevrolet SS sedan with no window tint present. The ThinkWare cameras were the cameras that pre-existed in my vehicle, and both are 1080p full high-definition cameras, both front and rear. That gives us a comparison on the front between a full high-definition 1080p camera and the 4K ultra-high-definition camera supplied by the BlackVue product. I tested two different brightness level settings for the front BlackVue camera. You'll note a B3 and B5 for brightness levels 3 and 5 on the tagline for that camera's video. The ThinkWare cameras do have circular polarizing filters installed on both the front and rear cameras, and those are ThinkWare products. While at this time, BlackVue does not provide circular polarizing filters, but they are available from third-party vendors. This is daytime sunny footage from both front cameras, brightness level 3 for the front BlackVue camera. The brightness level is a bit darker for the BlackVue camera versus the ThinkWare camera footage. Now we're taking a look at the zoomed in regulatory sign. You can see both signs reasonably well from both cameras, but the clarity is much better with the 4K ultra high definition camera footage from the BlackVue camera. Now we're taking a look at some brightness level 5 footage from the BlackVue camera. It's a little more equal as far as brightness level overall to the ThinkWare camera. Zooming in on this sign, you can definitely see the Folsom sign much better with the BlackVue camera, but you can make it out to some degree with the ThinkWare camera, but again, 4K ultra high definition footage is much better. Here's the daytime sunny footage for both rear cameras. Both are 1080p full high definition cameras, although the field of view is a little bit wider with the BlackVue supplied camera. Now we're going to zoom in on a regulatory sign here. Both are pretty equal quality. You can make out the letters pretty well for both of these. So overall, I like the camera footage from both of them. Although the BlackVue footage at brightness level 3, which I'll do for all the rear camera testing, is just a little darker than the ThinkWare footage. In this video footage, it's from 30 minutes after sunset, and as we zoom in here on the regulatory sign, the crispness is a little better with the BlackVue camera, although not perfect. Low light does seem to equalize these two cameras a bit, although the color richness is better on the BlackVue camera, but the darkness is still a little low for me at brightness level 3. So now we're going to switch over to some nighttime footage, brightness level 5 on the BlackVue camera. You can see a little more on the edges, but it's still a little darker compared to the ThinkWare footage. Now we're going to zoom in on the sign here. Both of them struggle a little bit, but the BlackVue captured footage is a little more detail and you can see the color a little better. So overall, I like the BlackVue footage a little better. This is rear camera footage at 30 minutes after sunset. And the headlight separation, actually you can tell there's two separate headlights in the ThinkWare camera footage versus the BlackVue footage, although the color richness is a little better with the BlackVue camera. And this is at brightness level 3 again for the rear camera from the BlackVue bundle. I had the opportunity to capture some footage in a foggy situation, so here's the footage from the front cameras. And it does pretty well in both of them given the rain and the fog conditions, and here's the footage from the rear cameras. Here are some examples of time-lapse parking mode footage from the front and rear cameras. The brightness level is set to 3 on the front camera. Each 10 seconds of playback is approximately 5 minutes of actual recording time. Please remember that impact detection is still active with time-lapse configured as your parking mode selection. In this segment, we'll test the internal microphones of the two cameras to see what type of audio is captured from the interior of the vehicle. First, we're going to start off with the microphone from the DR900S front camera. This is a test of the internal microphone of the BlackVue DR900S 2-channel camera bundle front camera. The DR900S seemed to do a pretty good job of capturing the audio. Let's test out the F800 Pro front camera. This is a test of the internal microphone from the ThinkWare F800 Pro front camera in the 2-channel camera bundle. While editing this video, I did normalize both audio segments from both cameras to -6 dB to have a fair comparison, and I still did like the audio captured by the DR900S just a little bit better. It was a little bit more crisp than the ThinkWare F800 Pro audio. BlackVue provides an application called BlackVue Viewer for your SD card, which allows you to view the video files captured by your camera, and you can look at front and rear camera files at the same time, metadata captured by the camera, including location information and impact information, and then it also provides connectivity to BlackVue over the cloud, so you can take advantage of the services and features of BlackVue over the cloud. You can download this application from the BlackVue download page. I'll have a link down in the description section for that download page. When you want to connect to your camera over Wi-Fi, make sure you activate the Wi-Fi network on the camera by pressing the button on the right side of the camera. In your phone's settings, and then a corresponding feature on Android, connect to the Wi-Fi network. You'll be prompted for the password, which is on the label on the camera and also in the box that was supplied in. Then it should connect to the Wi-Fi network. And I would suggest that you disable the auto join feature so that you don't automatically connect to this network if the Wi-Fi network is on. Make it a conscious choice on your part. So with that disabled, we're going to go back to the main screen here, and then we're going to go over to the application itself. Make sure you download the BlackVue over the cloud version of the application. We can see it on the main screen here. We have BlackVue Cloud, which is the portion of the app that configures the BlackVue over the cloud service, which we'll talk about later. BlackVue Wi-Fi, which is how we connect to the camera over the Wi-Fi connection provided by the camera. Internal memory shows you the video files have been downloaded to the mobile device's internal memory. And BlackVue battery is used to interact with the BlackVue PowerMagic Ultra battery or similar products from BlackVue. And when you first go in, you'll see the list of files that are available on the camera, and you can filter them based on the toggle switches for the filters at the top, or you can click on the down arrow phone symbol to download it to internal memory, or use the camera icon to look at a live view of the camera's front and rear. Next, we're going to use the firmware upgrade, firmware over the air option, and you can see that the firmware version that's on the camera and the one that I have available are the same, so there's no need to upgrade, but please check that on your camera. Depending on when it was manufactured, it may have an older version, and please upgrade it to the latest version before you proceed setting up the camera. Since my firmware is current version of firmware, I'm going to exit out of that feature, and now we're going into the firmware settings section. First off, we're going into the basic section and time selection. This warning on the screen about it removing all the content on the micro SD card is important to pay attention to, so changing the time will cause it to remove the files on the SD card. Make sure you have them backed up before you change this. Make sure you select the appropriate offset from GMT for your time zone, and then toggle the daylight savings time whether daylight savings time is active or not. Now we're going to go into the video section where we can change the resolution, select the video codec to be used for the compression of the video files, and change the brightness of the front and rear cameras. Again, making a modification to the resolution will cause it to remove all contents on the micro SD card, so back them up before making a change. Under video codec, you can change between H.265, the high efficiency video coding codec, and select H.264 if you need backward compatibility for certain devices, but H.265 is preferred for 4K video since it does a much better job at compressing the video files. Let's take a look at the recording options. Normal recording is on by default. In parking mode, you can select off, motion and impact detection, and time-lapse. Time-lapse also includes impact detection as well. Via the rear camera recording in parking mode selection, you can define whether the rear camera participates in parking mode full-time, as it is with the on setting, or if it only records for the first 5 minutes with the off setting. You may also select whether the internal audio in the vehicle is recorded using the voice recording setting, and whether the date and time is displayed on the video image in the lower left corner. Using the speed unit setting, you may determine whether the current speed of the vehicle is displayed in kilometers per hour or miles per hour. The next setting we're going to take a look at is lock event files. With this off, any event files generated from motion impact events will be overwritten as normal files. Turning this on will cause it to retain the first 50 of those, but if you wish those to be overwritten as they need to be aged out, turn on the overwrite locked files with new event files when storage is full. Depending on how you install the rear camera, you may wish to adjust the rear camera orientation. Going into this selection allows you to leave it as it is default, rotate the video 180 degrees, or mirror the video. Next, we're going to take a look at the sensitivity settings. We get to define the impact G-sensor settings for normal mode, parking mode, and the motion detection regions for parking mode. So let's take a look at G-sensors for normal mode. That's while you're driving around in normal operations. You want to set these fairly low so you don't get false events from driving around and hitting a bump or a pothole. Just something that's appropriate for your driving style and vehicle. Next, we're going to look at G-sensor parking mode. The values for this are usually higher, and this will detect impact events that take place during parking mode. Setting it too high might get wind moving your vehicle around to set off an event, but set it to an appropriate level for the environmental conditions for your vehicle. Next, we're going to take a look at motion detection in parking mode. You can use the slider at the top to turn it off or set it up to the most sensitive of 5. And then on the lower section, you get to define the detection region for the front and rear cameras. And keep in mind, this is wherever you park the vehicle. So if you have a lot of motion in the areas where you park the vehicle, this could trigger a lot of false events. But if you're parking in very specific locations that have like shrubbery or something that move, and you want to desensitize the motion settings here, you would uncheck those regions. Or if you have like a security LED on the front of your dashboard, maybe uncheck that as well. Now we're going to go into the system settings and adjust some of the settings, such as the LED settings. You can adjust which lights and status lights are displayed by the various cameras. I tend to like a stealth installation, so I am going to turn most of those off. You can adjust it per your requirements. And then for the proximity sensor, there's an option of whether you move your fingers near the proximity sensor, whether it will do a voice recording on and off, manual recording, such as you see something on the road you want it to record, or you can turn the proximity sensor off altogether. The volume setting adjusts the speaker volume in the front camera. You can also configure whether the schedule reboot function is enabled. By default it is, and it will reboot the camera at 3 a.m. local time. You may also define a speed alert. If you go over a particular speed, the camera will alert you. You can define that in kilometers per hour or miles per hour. And then in the upper left-hand corner of the video, you can have a particular text string displayed. I'm going to enter my company name there. Next, we're going to go ahead and take a look at the Wi-Fi settings for the camera. In there, you can change the login credentials, such as the SSID and password for your Wi-Fi network supplied by the camera. You can have it auto turn on the Wi-Fi network, auto turn off, which is default enabled, and you can select which Wi-Fi band, 5 GHz or 2.4 GHz, and 5 will certainly support a much faster file transfer between the camera and your phone. And the next set of settings we're going to take a look at is the cloud settings. If you're going to use the BlackVue over the cloud service, you need to enable this through this particular option. And you can also define the cloud service hotspots you're going to be using to connect your camera to the cloud service. And it does allow for the entry of up to 3 Wi-Fi networks. Next, it's going to scan for the available Wi-Fi networks, and then it will present us with a panel where we can enter up to 3 Wi-Fi network configurations for connectivity to BlackVue over the cloud. Now let's take a look at the push notification settings. We can define whether particular events generate a notification, so you can toggle them on and off in this particular screen. I'm going to take a look now at one last setting from the main screen for firmware settings, and that's language. You can make the appropriate language selection from this panel. Now we'll exit the firmware settings, and I'll prompt to save and close, which will cause the camera to reboot to activate those settings. Next, we're going to take a look at BlackVue over the cloud. Through the application, you can configure the service by registering the camera through the BlackVue Cloud option here. I already have this camera registered, and you can change these various settings through the 3 dots on the right side there. By selecting the camera name on the screen there, we can then go and see what video files are available on the camera itself, the cloud, or any event auto-uploaded files. This concludes the high-level walkthrough of the BlackVue over the cloud application. Here are the review findings I have for the BlackVue DR900S 2-channel dash camera. The front camera's 8 megapixel 4K ultra high definition video quality is very good. You can read more clearly license plates, and general video quality is excellent. Although the rear camera's 1080p full high definition video quality, of course, is not as good as the front cameras, but it is sufficient for the application. Although competitor products are beginning to offer 2K rear dash cameras, so it would be nice to see BlackVue include that in future product offerings. This camera has excellent parking mode support. It supports 2 options: buffered motion and impact events, and time-lapse, which is 1 frame per second with impact events as well. Upon exiting parking mode, an audio alert is presented to the occupant to let them know that an event took place during parking mode, so you can check with your BlackVue app to see what took place while in parking mode. The DR900S can also take advantage of the capabilities of the BlackVue over the cloud service. If you're an individual car owner or a fleet service manager, you can check out the features for the BlackVue over the cloud service on the BlackVue website. The front camera uses a supercapacitor instead of a lithium-ion battery to safely power down the camera. This allows for better support of temperature extremes. Although in cold environments it may be something you need to check out, the temperature range is listed as -4 Fahrenheit to 158 degrees Fahrenheit. Installation of the camera can be done very simply using the supplied power port adapter, so you could simply plug it into an existing cigarette lighter or power port in your vehicle as long as it supplies switched power, or you can pair it with one of the other BlackVue power options such as the BlackVue PowerMagic Ultra Battery B-124X, which I have reviewed on my channel. Cautionary note, make sure that you avoid the supplemental restraint airbags while installing the cables for this product. Placing a cable over an airbag may cause the airbag to deploy incorrectly or not at all during an accident. Make sure you avoid that by routing the cable either underneath the airbag or select a path that doesn't include the airbag at all for that cable. Next couple items are some nice to haves in future products from BlackVue. First one is a power off button on the front camera. Why, you ask? Well, there's situations where I drive the vehicle home, I'm going to have it parked in the garage for some number of extended hours, and there's no reason to be recording video files to the micro SD card, potentially rotating off video files that I would like to keep, and there's no reason to drain either the vehicle's battery or the PowerMagic Ultra battery that I've got this dash camera connected to. The competitor products do offer this feature, and it's nice to be able to simply press a button. And removing a cable from the side of the camera over time might cause some connectivity problems with that power cable. So it's really just be nice to have a power switch on the front camera. And the next suggestion would be to have the front camera to support 3-wire power supplies to properly detect ignition on and off events, so that going in and out of parking mode can be detected by the ignition system event. Right now, it's relying on the fact that power is constantly supplied to the camera, be it through a power port adapter or an external battery pack, and the fact that the camera ends up being stationary for 5 minutes. So there's times where you might be driving the vehicle and you're in traffic and it might be sitting for 5 minutes and it goes into parking mode. The current parking mode detection logic does work reasonably well. I'd rather avoid false positives in this situation where the vehicle's stationary for 5 minutes, be it in the drive-through or stuck in traffic. So I'd rather have a more deterministic approach to that by having a 3-wire power supply to the front camera. Of course, that would be switched power, unswitched power, and ground. The switch power would come from the ignition system so they can properly detect the ignition on and off events. Now the PowerMagic Ultra battery solutions that are offered by BlackVue do actually have a switch power lead, but the current power port adapters that are included in those battery packs only supply 2 wires, a constant 12 volt and a ground. BlackVue does offer a 3-wire cable that can be used with the PowerMagic Ultra Battery B-124X to supply power to a third-party camera, but it'd be nice if their own cameras had that capability as well. I hope you found this video to be informative. If you did, make sure you hit that like button. That will help this video rank higher in the YouTube search rankings. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, subscribe and hit that bell notification to keep up to date on any new videos I upload to the channel. Thanks for watching.